Archangel Chronicles 2, Chapter 3, Gondophares, by Raymond Collodi. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. Gondophares. Listen now, scribe, and I will tell you my story. The story of why I left all that I had accomplished, an empire I forged with blood, sweat, and steel. I wrested those lands from the captivity of warlords and became lord of 1,000 cities. But a man must have more than mere power over vassals. I must leave more when I flee this life than the smoking ruins of my enemy's castles and the wailing of his women taken into captivity. At the end of this life, we must stand and account for our place in the world and see the meaning of it all. So listen now, and I will tell you. I had a dream. In it, I walked through the jungle in the cool of the evening. I was in the body of a tiger, unseen to all other creatures, but sensing all around me in the gathering darkness. I walked with fluid grace amongst bamboo and vines, shrouding me from view, stepping lightly, quietly. All the forest creatures ceased their chatter and stood still, hidden in anxious silence, while I passed them by, thankful that they were not my prey that night. I stalked silently on, searching for I knew not what. I stopped to sniff the air. The damp, earthy scent of the rainforest was thick and sweet. A light breeze shifted the ferns, casting shadows in the weak moonlight. I embraced those shadows like an invisible blanket. I came to the edge of a clearing. Men huddled around a fire, seeking comfort in its flickering light, whispering, wide eyes anxiously searching the dark surroundings. I could smell their fear, and it gave me strength. But I slipped by unseen, for I knew in my tiger's mind that they were not my prey that night. Walking through the silence, I penetrated the depths of the forest. I saw a light, the merest pinpoint in the sky, through a break in the smothering jungle canopy. That light took shape, at first blue, but it blazed brighter and brighter, cutting through the shadows like a knife. It gathered into a pillar, throbbing like a blinding white-hot fire, first like water, quicksilver and flowing, then a swirling rush of flame cascading like molten waterfalls, then soaring and flying like blazing birds on wing, and settling into a shimmering, pulsating brightness, growing in intensity. And in the center of the pulsing brightness, I saw a glowing face. I followed this pillar of light through the forest, over fallen trees and under hanging vines on silent paws. I came to another opening in the forest, and the light shot down upon it. In the center, I saw a newborn infant, stirring in swaddling clothes. But the surrounding darkness frightened it not, and as I emerged in my tiger's form into the circle of light, I felt the baby's countenance, and he feared me not. I came close, and the baby gazed upon my fearful appearance. My power, which silenced all other animals and all humankind in the forest, and filled them with dread, disturbed not this child. His face shone like the sun and was at peace. He looked deep into me. Another figure of shimmering light, tall and powerful, appeared beside this child, and I heard in my mind the words, "Come to me, O King of the forest, and see what shall unfold." These words soothed my restless soul and seared my spirit. I woke from my sleep and looked at my arms and legs, drenched in sweat. I was now in the body of a man again. I was in my tent, the dawn just breaking over the camp of my army, 20,000 strong. We had come 3 nights earlier to begin the siege of Barbaricum. This was the last refuge of the house of Azes, whose kingdom I had consumed. We planned to take it by assault the next day. Pacorus, my faithful and reliable chamberlain, was bowing to me from the opening. "Great King," he said, excitement in his words, "there is news. The lesser lords of Barbaricum seek to discuss terms. They have sent envoys. Will you see them?" "Terms? For surrender? Now? What has changed their minds?" "They were determined to resist," I said. "They will tell you, Great King," said Pacorus as he lifted the tent flap aside. 2 envoys, dressed in fine silk gowns and red turbans, stepped inside. They bowed to me. "Great King Gondophares, O exalted one, O merciful King of the House of Surin, King of Kings, Lord of 1,000 castles, overlord of Minagara and Texila, greetings. We have been sent by the Azes, the son of Azes, to see why you have brought your army here to break the peace and terrorize our people," the gray-bearded one said. I scoffed. "O you nobles of Barbaricum, why have I come, you ask? You have stopped your tribute. Your king has refused to come into my fold. He refuses me soldiers. He refuses to collect customs from the trade fleets visiting your ports and send my fair share to me at the royal capital. For this, you must be punished." I stepped up to the gray-bearded one and stood, my face inches from his, hands on my hips. "Even now, my scouts tell me you have received a trade fleet of 10 ships, and they have anchored at your harbour. Did you think we do not watch whom you receive and what custom duties you steal from us?" The gray-bearded one stepped back, surprise flashing in his eyes. He looked at his companion in alarm and abruptly knelt at my feet, grabbing the helm of my tunic. "Oh, great and merciful king, I beg forgiveness. You misunderstand," he said, his voice trembling. "I misunderstand nothing. Your master plays us for a fool. Do Do you think I do not know the treaties he has made with mercenary fleets to smuggle their treasures and store them in his warehouses? Does he think I have no eyes in his city that I can see? Did not 10 ships sail into your harbor just 3 days ago? Mercy, O great king, shouted the graybeard, collapsing to his knees and groveling furtively at my feet. Hear me, great king, so justice may be done. These ships you speak of, they're neither mercenary nor pirates. They come from the great empire to the west, the land of Egypt, and the Romans. We thought you sent them to us, for they have destroyed a squadron of war galleys guarding our harbor. We are defenceless, great king. Azes has fled the city by night, and he left us defenseless. We have come to yield our city, for we have heard that you are a fair man, a man who keeps faith with those who seek his help. Mercy, great king, said the other envoy, joining his companion at my feet. Get up, my lords, and take heart. Stand like tall men, I say. Tell me of these 3 ships. Populous, bring these guests our finest wine and chairs so that we may parley with them. Light the incense. Send in the musicians so that our friends may see we do not rebuff their requests for our protection. Yes, great king. The envoys relayed to me what they had seen of the sea skirmish 3 days earlier. These ships are very large, great king, but they are not war galleys. They sailed into the harbor, swatting aside the squadron guarding it and setting them on fire. And can you tell me, my lords, where these galleys come from? The 2 envoys looked at each other with fear in their eyes. The gray-bearded one nodded, and turning to me, explained, O great king, our overlord Azes feared your wrath. He reached out and struck an alliance with the Eudamites to the west and their pirate allies to keep the port open if you took steps to besiege the city. These walls are strong, and with supplies and warriors coming from the sea, he thought he could hold out against you. This was his plan. I growled. Azes was a usurper. He broke faith with me years ago and has sought allies where he can. I said, How many ships does he command through this alliance? You must protect us, great king, for if we tell you, our lives are worthless if Azes returns. Speak truth, my lords, and live. Deceive me, and a painful death awaits. The choice is yours. Graybeard, voice quivering, continued. 20 war galleys came to our harbor a fortnight ago, great king. They left a week before these strange ships arrived, leaving 3 galleys to guard the coast. They are raiding further south, not far from here. At the battle, one of the ships slipped away and went through south to give warning. When these ships arrived and took the harbor, they anchored. 2 days ago, they sent us an envoy, but Azes was too afraid to receive him. He left with the palace guard and the mercenaries last night. We think they went south to join the fleet. They will be back again in force. Graybeard threw himself at my feet again with his forehead touching the floor. O great king, it is known that your wrath is harsh. You have surrounded the city. The harbor is blocked. Our overlord has fled, leaving us at your mercy. Have pity, great king. Do not slay us. Do not plunder the city. Take command. We will open the gates, he said, looking up in supplication, tears streaming down his face. I said nothing for a long time. I returned to my seat. Then I gestured for them to get up. You are wise to come to me now, my lords. Arise. Take heart. No blood has been spilled. You and your people will bow to my authority and receive my protection." The envoys stood and wiped away their tears. They seized my hands and kissed my fingers. "Great king," said Greybeard when he had recovered himself, "there is something more you should know. Even if you did not summon these ships, they have come from far away. We think they are from Egypt and Rome." "Well now, my lords, that is very interesting indeed. Let us reach out to these travelers and see what their intentions are," I said. Several days later, I was holding court in the governor's palace. I convened my court and informed my generals and nobles to assemble in the great hall. Care had been taken to make the hall suitable for the occasion. I wished to display my power and glory to impress these foreigners. The walls were hung with sumptuous silk carpets and streaming banners. The road leading to the great golden doors of the hall were lined by my regiments, dressed in their polished armor. 50 war elephants with gilded tusks, lengthened by curved steel blades with blue painted ears, trunks, and painted crimsons, stood at attention. Ostrich feathers streamed from their massive bronze helmets. 6 tigers with gilded collars, restrained by their handlers' golden chains, sat majestically on each side of my gilded throne. My nobles and I were dressed in gold armor, encrusted with rubies and other precious gems. Drums beat out a cadence as a group of strangers was led up the carpeted passage. The members of my court stared at them in amazement. The strangers halted before my throne, which sat on a raised dais, so that my head was above any other in the room. They stopped and bowed to me. The drum beats ceased on cue. My chamberlain stepped forward with his bronze staff, striking the polished stone floor, and called out in a loud voice in Greek so that all could hear and understand. "You are in the presence of the great King Gondophares, also known as Gaspar of the House of Surin, Lord of 1,000 cities, King of Kings, King of Barbaricum, of the royal cities of Minagara, Anachosa, Gandhara, Taxila, Sagara, King of the Sakas, heir of Sixander, conqueror of the earth. State your names and your business before the great king." I looked down on the strangers. Many were Greek or descendants of the Greeks that traded with my predecessors generations ago. But there was an older man, tall of stature and powerful of build, with receding gray hair and proud bearing. He had taken off his helmet and held it off aside. I knew this man. A smile of recognition illuminated his face. He was dressed in a bronze cuirass, with a purple cloak and shiny greaves and military boots. To his right was a younger man, his lieutenant, I thought, similarly dressed, helmet also held off to his side. Besides these 2 men was the most beautiful woman I had ever seen. She was tall, slim, elegant, and dressed in a long white gown in the Greek style, pinned at the shoulders and bloused at the waist, falling down in appealing folds to her feet. Her hair was like spun gold, bound with silver ribbons, and gathered in an appealing mass at the back of her head. Her eyes were a pale blue, wide and bright. She moved with grace and poise. Another Helen, I thought. One must be careful to not give up a kingdom for such a woman. 2 others rounded out this group. A man with a weathered face, bow-legged and squat, no doubt a sailor. My eyes strayed to the 4th person in the group. a man with a long white beard, balding head, also dressed in the Greek style with a white garment draped over bare shoulders. "Welcome, Senator," I said, looking at the commander. "I remember you. Many years have passed since you were last here. The sea did not swallow you up." The commander bowed. "Great king," he said, "I bring with me this commission from my sovereign, Gaius Augustus Caesar, princeps of the Senate and people of Rome. We come to establish trade with your kingdoms in peace and reopen the routes to Egypt, closed these many years." He stepped forward and, bowing again, handed a scroll to my chamberlain, who opened it and passed it to me. It was a letter from Augustus Caesar himself, written in Greek. "Great King Gondophares of the house of Surin, overlord of the Indus, lord of 1,000 cities, etc., etc. Greetings from the Senate and people of Rome. We send you our legate and Admiral Paulus Fabius Honourius, who has our confidence. He has full authority from me and the Senate and people of Rome to establish friendly relations and mutual help between our peoples. Honourius has plans that he will lay before you to establish permanent trading ports with your sufferance and to our mutual benefit. A squadron of 10 Liburnae war galleys and a trade fleet of 100 ships are under his command, and I have decreed that he shall place them under your authority to sweep the seas of pirates and corsairs who have interrupted trade between the two great empires. I beseech you, great king, to listen to him. In eternal friendship, signed Gaius Julius Augustus Caesar, princeps, etc., etc. I rolled the scroll up and placed it back in its case. Paulus Fabius Honourius, friend, it has been too long since you were in our presence. Your goddess Fortuna has followed you here, my friend, and she sheds her favor upon me as well. 3 days ago, my army surrounded the city, and we lay siege to it. Your timely arrival, scaring off our enemies, was a stroke of divine intervention. Now I have taken the city back from its usurper and restored it to my authority." With a bow of his head, Honourius revealed a smile. "We've crossed the open waters of the Erythrean Sea, great king, with favorable winds at our backs, right into your harbor. The gods have favored us both. We're not about to let those vultures who intercepted us prevent us from entering your harbor. I'm thrilled to see you, indeed, great king." "My lord Honourius, I feel the danger has not yet passed. While you have made it to safe harbor, our enemies, the pirates and mercenaries from the Eudamontes, are on their way. They were raiding down the coast, 20 large triremes, my lord, but I see that you have none to counter them." "We will build them, great king. We have with us all that we need, and shipwrights who are skilled. Give me a fortnight, and I will build you a squadron of fast Liburnae, 10 strong, that would be more than a match for them. We will teach them the very lesson learned by Cleopatra and Antony at Actium." "Actium, you say? That I wish to see. Come then, Lord Senator. Let us retire for refreshment and entertainment, so that you may show me your plans away from prying eyes and treacherous ears in this hall." The 10 Roman ships of the trade fleet were now moved from their anchorage to the wharves and warehouses of Barbaricum. Gangs of slaves, many from the remnant of Azes' army who did not have the chance to flee, were ordered to unload their cargoes. The Roman cohort of 800 men and the nucleus of rowers and sailors that would form the crews disembarked and began their work on dry land, now thankful of being at the end of their journey. Within a day, the cargoes were unloaded. Then the transformation began. Under the watchful eyes of the Alexandrian shipwrights, timbers were fashioned into keels and ribs, and planks shaped into hulls. Thousands of slaves and sailors swarmed over the entire waterfront, turning it into a beehive of activity. Honourius and his tribune Callias organized their men to recruit and train freedmen in the city on the fine art and discipline of rowing in unison. No slave crews serve as crews in the Roman Navy, Great King, said Honourius as we walked along the waterfront surveying the activity. They're all freemen, skilled and tested, paid and trained and groomed for this task. They must willingly serve and are well rewarded for their efforts. Slaves have neither the stamina nor the spirit to perform rowing at the high level required. Naval warfare demands discipline, hard work, and fighting skills. Each rower has a spear and a sword and will join the fight with Marines on top deck if we are boarded or ourselves board enemy ships. It would be a disaster to man our ships with slaves. Slaves will not fight or follow orders willingly. The Romans brought a corps of skilled rowers with them, but a squadron of Liburnae war galleys requires a crew of 36 rowers, 18 to a side. 10 ships required, therefore 360 rowers. The Romans had brought 100 with them. I summoned my heralds and sent them throughout the city and upriver to the royal city of Minagara with a much larger population to recruit more Greek-speaking men, fit and strong of body, with handsome offers of coin to come and be trained. Within 10 days, the crews were assembled and began their rigorous training on dry land, sitting in racks specially built for the purpose to practice their rowing and responding to commands. While the training was going on, the hulls of 10 sleek war galleys began to take shape. The Romans called these swift vessels Liburnae. These ships were 109 Roman feet in length and 16 feet wide, but had a draft of only 3 feet. The ram jutting out of the body of the ship at the prow added another 10 feet of length and was tipped by a heavy bronze rostrum at the waterline. These ships of yours are smaller than the corsairs, my friends, and they outnumber you 2 to 1, I said to Honourius. It is known that the Eudamontes from the south coast of what you Romans call Arabia Felix have much larger warships, triremes and quinquiremes with many more oars. Aye, Great King, they'd be smaller, but they'll be much faster and more maneuverable. With a properly trained crew, we can turn 360 degrees in short order, reverse direction, and hit at ramming speed with 4 or 5 strokes. These Liburnae will run circles around triremes or quinquiremes. I looked at the smooth fighting decks of the galleys, lined with a parapet wall, topping the rowing box below, and the gangway that ran over the oarsmen, shielding them from arrows and spears. What are those machines at the bows? I said. Scorpions, Great King. They throw grappling hooks or bolts or stones or clay pots filled with naphtha, pitch, and sulfur. So there is another sting we can deliver when we meet the enemy, I said. But where are the masts? You have no sails. Sails are for cruising, not fighting. They get in the way. We will assemble the masts after the battle. In between our inspections, I held court in the city's agora and listened to the petitions of my subjects. Day after day they streamed in with their petitions, or calling for justice against an oppressor, or seeking favors for themselves. One day, at the end of a long session, my chamberlain Pacorus stepped forward to whisper in my ear, "Great King, the lady philosopher from Alexandria begs audience with you. She has a favor to ask, and she brings her servant Camilla with her. I raised my hand and nodded. I will see her. This is a pleasant surprise, I thought. Sophia and her servant were ushered into my presence. She bowed. Her dazzling beauty and elegant presence filled the room. All other nobles and courtesans whispered as I stood, stepped down from the dais, and gently grasped her hands, raising her to her feet. I bowed and kissed her hands. Her long flaxen hair fell on bare shoulders. Ice blue eyes, wide and bright, set in an oval face with vermilion lips, parted in an intriguing smile. By the gods, I thought, here would be a worthy queen to take her place beside me. My Lady Sophia, your presence graces my court and brightens a long day. Sophia bowed her head, her cheeks flushed with the attention. Thank you for granting me this audience, great king. I present my guardian and friend, Camilla. I turned my attention to the middle-aged matron at Sophia's side. Oh yes, Camilla, Vestalis Maxima. I have heard you've had an eventful trip here. I hope that you will find our humble palace and your rooms comfortable. Camilla bowed. Yes, great king. Your chamberlain has gone to great lengths to ensure our comfort. She turned to Pacorus and nodded. He returned the gesture. Great king, we ask an indulgence, but only if it troubles you not, said Sophia. Speak, my lady, and command me as you will, for your grace and beauty demand I grant your heart's desire. Her cheeks turned an even deeper shade of red. The attraction between us was unmistakable. Great king, we have come to your ancient kingdom to learn and study, as well as to aid you in reopening the trade routes that one bound our realms together. You speak Greek, as do many of your people. We have much to learn from each other. We have come in the steps of Alexander of Macedon 300 years ago. He came to these lands and founded many of your cities, including this one. He came with scholars and scribes and left us books that tell us what he found. One of his generals, Ptolemy, became king of Egypt before the Romans. Ships were built that sailed over the great sea on the monsoon winds, bearing treasures from our lands to yours. 'Tis true, my lady. These things are well known by my people, but the strength of Macedon faded over the years. Invaders, the Saka, came from the steppes. Alexander's empire fell into civil wars, pitting petty kings and overlords against each other. They carved up the Macedonian kingdoms, but we have never completely forgotten the Greeks or their language spoken through the world. It is still a language of learning, trade, and diplomacy. I have come to you, great king, for another purpose. I and my companions come not on a quest for great riches. Our pursuit is for treasures that surpass jewels, silks, and gold. We seek knowledge. There is a great library in my city, the greatest library in the world. For eons my people have gathered knowledge from those who visit our city. We collect and duplicate the books they bring, exchanging the knowledge and writings. So your mission, my lady, is to gather knowledge and truth and store it for all the world? Yes, great king. Scholars access and contemplate the stored knowledge of the world in our vaults. These scholars teach others, and so knowledge is preserved for all time. 'Tis a noble cause, my lady. It is well known that the great library in Alexandria is a beacon to the world and soars above the strife of nations, just as the great lighthouse Pharos rises above the sea in the great harbour of your city. You know of the great library, great king? By reputation. My ancestors have been there. Oh, you simply must come, great king, and see the wonder of it yourself. We have such a place in my kingdom. Many days' travel up the great river Indus in Gandhara, near my capital Taxila, where the waters of the Indus spring from the Hindu Kush. In my capital, you will find Persians, Greeks, Scythians, and many other peoples from as far away as China. I came down from the throne, and gently grasping a hand of each of the two women, led them to a group of divans, gestured to them to sit and be at ease. There, from before the coming of the Greeks and the Macedonians, Ashoka, the great Mauryan emperor of Magdha, decreed the foundation of the Dharmarjya stupa at Taxila over the relics of the Buddha. There, under the Persians, was founded a great university where scholars and scribes study astronomy, sciences, and the healing arts. I have endowed this place with my patronage and protection. So, like your great library and museum, our knowledge also grows and blooms in a fertile field. I could see that Sophia was absorbed by my description. It would be my wish to take you there, my ladies, when we have settled our accounts with these pirates and rebels. It has been many ages since Greek scholars visited us and exchanged their wisdom with our people. We are hungry for this. Please tell me you will come. I stopped and smiled. Of course, I do not command, but implore. With a smile, Sophia said, I will come, great king, for I also hope to search for someone who has been lost to me there. This caught my interest, and I was curious to learn more. Camilla fidgeted. May I speak, great king, she said. Of course, my Vestalis Maxima. She glanced sideways at Sophia. I have sworn my life to protect this lady. Now she looked at me straight in the eye, proud and firm. She'll not be taking any trip alone with you now, would she? I nodded. Lady Sophia will fall under my protection on such a journey. We shall hardly be alone. My personal guard all swear to defend me, and will be ample protection for the journey. Much of the way will be by ship. We have royal barges that will be towed or rowed up the great river. There can be no concern for her physical safety. That's not exactly what I meant, great king, she said, looking at her hands. May I speak plainly? I raised my hand and sat back. Please, Lady Camilla, you are free to speak. You are amongst friends. Well now, great king, my ward here, who is like a daughter to me, has taken sacred vows to know no man. It will not do to leave her alone with you, if you pardon my saying so, sir. Appearances must be kept. I laughed. And so they must, my lady. This is easily addressed. You shall, of course, come with us, so you can discharge your trust. And my chamberlain, Pacoris here, will also join us to keep you company on the trip. So you see, we shall all be doubly chaperoned. Now it was Camilla's turn to blush, as she gave a sideways glance at Pacoris. I extended my right hand to Sophia and my left to Camilla. Come, my ladies, I cannot part company with two such enchanting women. We will make our way down to the wharves to inspect the progress of our fleet. I shall not come between the beautiful philosopher, my Kalu Philosophia, and her equally beautiful guardian, Vestalis Maxima, for that would anger the gods. On our way, my Lady Sophia, you must tell me about this man who has lost you, and why you may find him in Taxila. Sophia smiled, lips slightly parting. Why would you think that this person is a man? My lady, I rule over 1,000 cities. My armies have never been defeated, and my decrees bind all the lands of the mighty Indus, from what you Greeks call the Erythrean Sea to the mountains of the Hindu Kush, the top of the world. But I rule by power and force. It is the nature of things that, in time, these powers will pass away, and even my cities will turn to dust. There are greater forces that move us to do what no mighty ruler can. These forces are eternal. They can move mountains and transform us to be like gods. That force is love. And all the war elephants, arrows, spears, and regiments of my armies cannot prevail against it. You have come halfway around the world in search of yourself. What else can it be but love? And for a sacred beauty such as you, what else would that love be but for a special man? And then I thought, but did not say, and by the gods, I wish I were that man. The three of us progressed to the wharves by litter, carried by a dozen slaves, from the palace through the winding narrow streets of the port city. Thick with heat, the air was oppressive. The midday sun beat down upon the bricks and mortar of the dusty streets. As we traveled through the laneways, slaves ran beside us, waving huge feathered fans while we relaxed in the litter with curtains open. The heat was so oppressive that few others ventured onto the streets. Isolated sea breezes provided moments of release from the burning sun and air, but they were fleeting and soon died away. Tell me now, my lady, of this man you seek and why he waits you in Taxila. He is a physician, a healer. He is a strange man, but very skilled, she began. And why has this man become important to you? Since he entered my life, things have changed, she said, gazing out the side window and avoiding my eyes. I do not wish to pry, my lady. If my questions make you uncomfortable, I will stop. Sophia turned to me, eyes glistening. Why do you wish to know about him, great king? I gently grasped her hand under Camilla's watchful eyes. I drew it to my lips and kissed it lightly. My lady, I sense you have deep feelings for this man. Your eyes reveal it to me. Your happiness is important to me. And if I can help you find your heart's desire, then it is my fate to aid you. How could I do otherwise? Sophia and Camilla then told me the story of Adam and his strange friend Raphael. She told me of how he brought boatmen on the great river Nile back to life, and how he healed a Scythian queen. She told me of Honourius' plan to make allies of the Massagetæ and bring them to Taxila to open the land trade routes. The queen and the Massagetæ, you say? You Greeks and Romans call them Scythians. We know them here as the Saka. In ages past, Saka raised a horde and conquered lands to the east and north of here. They are fierce warriors. I have engaged them as mercenaries from time to time. I looked out of the opening of the litter and was lost in thought for a few moments. I turned and faced Sophia and looked deeply into those wondrous eyes. So I say to you, there is hope. This gives us yet another reason to go up the Indus to my capital at Taxila. While you are there, you will wish to visit the great university and meet the scholars and talk to the Brahmin and the monks of the Buddha. We will spare no effort in looking for your Adam. I will send out my scouts to find word of him. This I promise you. But first, we must secure our coasts and harbors to secure the trade fleets. Since the Romans arrived and my army took control of the port city, remarkable progress had been made. 10 Liburnae, sleek and mastless, sat on the wharf, complete. Teams of freedmen, well paid, sat in them day after day, performing their drills on the dry dock ships. Drums beat out cadences, and trumpets blared out commands. The galleys on blocks shook as oarsmen rowed in unison in response to commands. Although on dry land, these ships were now fully crewed. Responding to the shouted commands and trumpets and raised signal flags, the crews moved their oars in unison, at first slow, then on command faster, and then on another command faster still. Other commands made one side of a ship stop rowing and withdrawing oars in unison, while the other side reversed. On another command, after rowing at full speed, oars suddenly stopped and were withdrawn inside the ship as if bracing for a ram. Hour after hour, all day long, these crews practiced their drills on dry land. The ships looked like many-legged centipedes stalking their prey. I stood with Callias, Honourius, Nicanor, and Strabo on a raised platform overlooking the shipyard. They look good on dry land, but will they perform at sea, I said. Honourius turned to Callias. Tribune, give us your report. Exitor Navis Nicanor has instituted a series of drills for the crews, great king. These freemen are in good spirits and are becoming well-conditioned. These drills are like dry battles that will, when the time comes at sea, where all depends upon speed and maneuverability, they will be ready. We shall then see that their rowing will be very much like these drills. Our enemies crew their galleys with slaves, my lords, and I do not think they drill like these oarsmen, I said. In that case, great king, they cannot maneuver. They may go straight forward with brute force, for one of those triremes or quinquiremes have many more rowers, but they cannot pivot or reverse and withdraw after ramming, said Nicanor. And if their crews are chained and whipped below decks, they will not be able to fight while there is a boarding. The freeman rowers on our team are skilled in using shield, sword, and spear. They will join the Marines when boarding is ordered, said Honourius. Honourius gestured to join him at the map table. We all crowded around it. Honourius began, O great king, forgive me if I point out the obvious, but this must be said. Our enemy cannot stay out to sea. The offshore winds blow harder each day. They cannot keep station off the harbor. Yes, my friend, I said. We are in the month of the monsoons. The summer rainy season is about to begin. All about me I see the signs. But it is not just the wind you see. Their galleys are large, 100 to 300 men or more. They must be watered and fed, or they are useless. And this is the trap, my king. They must come to us by sea and wait for us. The longer the wait, the more fresh water and stocks they will consume. And the longer they wait at sea, said Nicanor, they will become waterlogged and heavier and slower. Then I must add one factor to your calculations, my friend, I said. They must come to us before the monsoon rains and winds begin in earnest. It may rain for days and the waves will be fierce. No army or navy could fight in such weather. Already I see the dark clouds gathering to the south, and they are laden with rain. So, there's only one way they can avoid all these disadvantages, said Honourius. They will need to seize a base nearby, a beach or a harbour, where they can draw their ships onto dry land to prepare their salt. Where could they find such a place? There is such a beach within a day's ride from here, I said. To the north, on the coast. Honourius nodded. Then send out your scouts to find them. We will strike them there by land with your army, and by sea with our new navy. Let us meet them there and deal with them once and for all. Ahura Mazda, the unconquerable creator, be praised, I said, raising my fists toward the sun. We will strike them like the monsoon winds and thunderbolts. We will destroy them. Music for Chapter 3. From Epidemic Sound, The Odyssey Ahead by Dream Cave, Serene Journey by Palace on Wheels, Godsend by Johannes Bornloff, Blood Money by Hampus Nasilius, Mystic Mountain by John Bajork, The Cost of Fears by John Bajork, A Hero Will Know by Bonnie Grace, For Queen and Country by Bonnie Grace, One with the Tribe by Bonnie Grace, Yukataka by Sayori Hayashi Egnell, and the song Myth by author unknown. Archangel Chronicles 2 by Raymond Collodi. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved.